Hello and welcome to the Animation Communication Podcast, for your source of discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join our host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, and Lyle Convoy, or Lyle Manbad.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Animation Communication. I know it's been a hot minute since we've done an episode, but I decided to do one because why not? So we actually have a guest too, so fancy stuff. So Mike, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do for a living, and we can go from there.
Hi, my name is Mike Impollonia. I'm a production manager for Titmouse and Disney Junior. Big animation fan. Worked on Ninja Turtles and some other cool shows back in the day. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So how did you first kind of start your journey as far as getting into animation?
I've always just been a major fan, always was, got those books as a kid of like how to draw Popeye out of the library, and those were really inspiring for me as a kid. And I just, obviously grew up with Nicktoons and the Disney Renaissance.
So what would you say was your favorite cartoon, or even favorite Disney character?
Aladdin, definitely for me. All those Renaissance era movies, of course, was huge into Rocko's Modern Life. Love Rocko's Modern Life, of course. That was a great one. Very, very weird, and probably made me who I am today.
Yeah, I never got into Rocko, but I've heard good things about it. I heard they really tried to push the envelope as far as what they were able to get away with.
Yeah, it wasn't as gross as Ren and Stimpy, but I love Ren and Stimpy too. But it was really charming and funny. It still holds up.
Okay, and you said Aladdin. Did you watch the series?
I was kind of adverse to the direct-to-video stuff when I was a kid. I didn't like the sequels being cheaper, especially when Robin Williams wasn't in the second one. I know he was in the third one, but as a kid, it just couldn't. I could see how cheap it looked, and it drove me crazy. Though I did like some of the TV shows. I loved the Hercules show. And a few of them, but for me it was the movies that were really I just couldn't separate the fact that the quality was so different as a kid. It just drove me crazy.
Yeah, I get it. I'm surprised for besides Robin Williams, they got the original cast back, so that was a little bit helped transition a little bit too. But
definitely
it was made by the television side of things, so
yeah. No, I get why it looked so cheap now because it wouldn't have existed if it wasn't cheap, so yeah, it was just interesting as a kid for me to when those started to come out, the TV versions of shows of movies. Yeah, it was kind of jarring for me.
Okay, yeah, because I was the opposite. I just ate that stuff up, even though I probably should have. I was very excited for Little Mermaid 2, even though that's not a great movie.
Hey, whatever floats your boat,
So, so what were the next steps? Maybe talk about high school, what you were planning as far as college, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely different for everybody, I'm sure. But for me, it was I just kind of stuck to taking as many art classes as I could in high school. I wasn't a great student otherwise, but I got through it. I was really fortunate that my parents were kind of looking out for me. They tried every single sport imaginable, and it just didn't work. And one day they found this listing in our local newspaper for an animation school that was opening up. And I would take classes every Friday night with this guy called Brian Mitchell, who was incredible. He taught me everything I needed to know about animation and the amusement parks and all the dark side of all of that stuff. So that really, from I think probably 8th grade until senior year of high school, I took those classes, and that really helped me a lot because we were animating, and he would tell me to take anatomy classes before college. So by the time I had somebody come to my school from SVA, they were kind of giving everybody a heads up on the portfolio process. I made a bit of a connection with him, and then lucky me, when I went to portfolio day at SVA, he was the guy that evaluated my portfolio. and he was like, it was really encouraging because he, for me personally, I don't think could consider myself the best artist, but and I was really worried about how I can get into college that way. But he saw that I was checking off the boxes and that I had, all the bases already established, like anatomy and animation, and I had a grasp of all of that. So I was very fortunate that those stars aligned at that moment, and I got into SVA. And School of Visual Arts was definitely a great experience. Not super happy with certain ways the curriculum is run and everything, but it got me my first internship, which was at Four Kids Productions, which did the Ninja Turtles at the time. This is like the 2010s era Turtles, or like early 2000s era. And so I started interning, and I found out production was a thing that existed because there was a lot more production going on in New York than there was art at for Turtles at least.
Mm-hmm.
It really just kind of gave me an idea of, wow, this is a possibility. And I started, when they needed somebody for the summer, I sucked it up and I worked for barely anything. I got a waitering job, but they needed me and I was going to be there for them, and they liked me and I liked them. And so then after that, they just thought of me when an opportunity came up, and it was really, really great. And to be honest, I still use a lot of those same contacts. That very first job, I mean, it's ridiculous how many of those first contacts have been such a huge part of my life and my career. So it's a small industry. So
Yeah, it's very tricky, especially if you don't have those roots established as far as trying to get in or break in. So I get it. I think we've done an episode about connecting or connections or breaking in and stuff like that. And a lot of times people are really discouraged because of how tough the process can be, especially if you didn't go to art school. So do you have any colleagues like that who maybe went to school for like business and then kind of ended up in the production side of things?
well, I really think that there's like a very low percentage of people I graduated with that are still working in animation. Sadly, it's just the nature of the industry. It's not easy, and so you have to really stick with it, and through ups and downs and recessions. But I honestly feel that sometimes production wise, people who didn't study animation are really great choices because um I don't know. I just sometimes find that it's a good fit. I mean, there's a lot of great people who are creative. I consider myself a creative, and I'm in production. But I've found that it doesn't necessarily. You don't have to necessarily be in animation to be in production. If you're super organized, and a lot of production is the same throughout all industries. There's little differences, but I will very, very seriously look outside of animation for good production people. So it's basically about you and how organized you are and your attitude. And if I feel like you can get it done, I'll hire anybody who I feel like can get it done.
I mean, yeah, that's a good attitude to have too, because sometimes people surprise you as well as like what they're willing to do and how hard they're willing to work. So
Yeah.
like people you would never expect to like rise to the occasion, but just like, oh, that's nice. They're cool. They did the
Yeah.
thing.
It's definitely a struggle for sure. You have to get used to the struggle. You got to get used to the ebbs and flows. You just got to put in the hard work. I was very happy that I actually did do a film. I finished my senior film in college. Not everybody did. My film wasn't anything, monumental by any means, but it was completed, and that's I was very happy with that at least. And I finished my film. I was proud of it. It was cute. People liked it, but I finished it, and that was really important to me. I really had to pat myself on the back that I, struggled, didn't feel like I was the greatest artist, but I've found my way, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, for those playing at home too, for art schools, usually the last year is called the senior thesis, where someone works on an original short
Yep.
project and submits it to film festivals and that kind of thing to get their name out there and be like, I did a thing. So that's kind of that process, which I think is great. I think I'm someone who needs that academic environment in order to get stuff done. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad there's schools
Met a
out
lot
there.
of really met a lot of really wonderful people that I'm still in contact with. Still friends. Yeah.
So something that we don't really talk about that often because we never had a guest is from New York specifically. So what is this animation scene in New York like? Because we deal a lot of the LA side because that's where a lot of people are. So I have no idea. So should be interesting.
Yeah, and New York, and definitely in general, New York is a more advertising focused, area in art. There's a lot of advertising. That's where a lot of the big money is. But there's some great animation studios as well. Sorry, there's that beep. There's a lot of great animation studios as well. It's definitely, like I said earlier, there's ebbs and flows. We're at a low point currently, but it'll come back without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
And so some new studios will pop up, but there are some great studios in New York. I work at Titmouse. They're there, but it is a tough time currently right now. There's not a lot of work. I think that the strikes and everything has definitely affected everything. They're afraid to really greenlight shows until everything's worked out. Sadly, everything comes down to money. But it's kind of hard everywhere right now. But I have found that since the pandemic, it doesn't necessarily matter where you are. I feel like me being in New York was a thing back in the day where I was like, I felt like I had to be in LA, but it's not so much that way anymore. As long everything's remote, and I can be just as useful and have a great career in New York. But I would say there's probably more opportunity in LA, but it's not a guarantee of anything.
Oh yeah, it's each way is pretty competitive, so I just think it's interesting. So let's see, because I know Titmouse has a office in LA, right, as well as.
Oh yeah. We have 2 offices in LA, an office in Canada. We got our New York office. We're all over, and the LA office is a lot cooler than the New York office. Of course, it's got some really cool stuff in there. You should look it up if you haven't. It's really cool lobby and everything. But I try to make it out there once a year and just kind of hang out and see everybody from my team that's out there. Go see the office. Try to get a feel for both coasts.
That
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
Titmouse is everywhere. We're all over.
So can you kind of explain the process of, maybe a bigger company putting an animation order for a studio and kind of how that works?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of this is done before I am hired, basically. You know what I mean? I kind of just feel like now that we're here, we need you to do this and that. But yeah, I would say one thing. I've been kind of under the bubble of Disney for a very long time, which is nice. Sometimes it's nice being under the corporate bubble because that's a little more consistent. Our shows, we have a really good relationship with our executive producer and creator, so they come up with concepts, and then then we'll have another show to work on. So it's definitely it's tricky, but our relationship is really great. We hope to keep working with them. Whenever they have another show,
The mouse is
they'll
listening.
give it to us because we do a great job. That's the hopes, But yeah, honestly, I don't know why they pick certain projects, or a lot of it's relationship wise. They have a creator in mind who they just trust, and then so that creator has a relationship with the studio or that executive producer has, and then that's where Titmouse gets involved. So it's a whole thing.
So Disney specifically, I think they only do their 3D features and their Yeah, mostly they're 3D features in house, right, and everything else they kind of outsource.
Yeah, pretty much the norm, sadly, in the industry currently is to outsource. Ireland, Italy, India, all these places are now becoming big hubs for animation. It's a blessing and a curse in a way because it keeps production going by having the animation being a little, more reasonably priced. But I feel like there's a lot of great animators and stuff that are missing out, in the States that really are definitely, yeah, missing out from having work being shipped overseas. But it's the nature of the beast. It's a lot of it is involving tax breaks and stuff like that that helps to, get these animations really expensive. It
Yep.
just really there's no way to avoid it. Even preschool, it's expensive. There's a lot of moving pieces. So wherever they can make it work, they have to. And it's can be tough to watch from being a creative, but it is the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like I remember I went to the Disney Television Building, and for people who don't know, they storyboard everything there, and they talk about everything there, but then it still goes to overseas to be animated.
Yeah.
So
That's basically how we do it as well. Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. So like, where should I go with this?
Well, I could say that our character, like in New York, we do the character, well, in New York and LA, character design, prop design, background design, proxies and basic modeling in 3D to assist our animation studio in Italy, the storyboarding and the writing, all that's done on our side. It's basically everything but the animation.
Yeah. So that's generally the process for television too. So I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't you mentioned a little bit about like the downward spiral of the industry. So I mean, we can both kind of elaborate on this, but like from your perspective, like what do you think is the biggest thing? Do you think it's the strikes? Do you think it's the rise of AI? Like, and when do you think it will come back, or how long you think it will take to recover? Stuff like that.
It's a lot of little things. AI is obviously a huge problem. I feel like that it needs to be written in stone what the studios are capable of doing with it, because they will take advantage of it. And that plays into the strikes and everything, and everybody getting what they want. It's definitely, like I was saying earlier, it's definitely a part of it, because studios are scared to insure projects if they feel like a strike is going to happen. So that's why there's currently less kind of production going on. I feel like that's going to change in the fall. I think the fall is going to be good for things kind of starting and moving forward. We have all these streaming services, which are part of the problem. You can't just create content and throw it out into the ether and expect to make a profit. So there's a lot of little things, but those like streaming services and animation are not going away. So there will be a time where they realize that, we got to get back into it and start creating some stuff. But it's happening currently. This is the lull, and it will come back. It will absolutely come back. Animation's not going anywhere. It's just a bad time. And I would say during the early 2000s, when the recession hit pretty hard, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum at that point. So that was really difficult. I was living in Manhattan. I didn't have a job. I was purging my bank account. It was horrible. Moved home, changed careers. It was a really tough time, but I stuck with it and got back when things took an upturn, and I've been back for several years now. So you just gotta kind of stick with it. And know that, when things change, it's not the end. There's always a way to come back.
Yeah, that's a good kind of positive spin to it too, because I think a lot of people, especially like especially kids that are just graduating college and stuff, don't really know which direction to go to as far as like, did I waste my time getting an animation degree when the industry's on fire? So. It's
paralyzing. I completely I feel for everybody who's starting in the industry, who's been in the industry and can't find a work at the moment. It's a terrifying time. I feel it, even though I'm working, believe me. But I am positive that there will be an upturn. The only advice I can say is like while you are struggling, just stay creative and stay motivated. Try to work on hobbies and things that keep you positive, and just power through it.
Hmm. That's a good note. And especially you can always draw more.
Yeah, I love making model kits and book nooks and Legos, and all that little stuff is all therapy, and it kind of helps when things are kind of crazy and frustrated, just to kind of focus on something like that for a while. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of hobbies, due to working remotely, and it's been really positive.
Hmm. Oh, do you want to tell people about your haunted house?
Sure, sure. So yeah, one thing that's been great about working remote, though, we are basically moving into a hybrid situation just to have the office. Everybody needs a little bit of the office, but working from home, gave me a great opportunity to work on some things I was really passionate about. And when COVID kind of really kicked in, I was super motivated, and I really wanted to start a haunted house for the Halloween season. So I just came up with this crazy idea. I gutted my garage and I started building walls in a maze. And that first year, it went very well. And I've just been able to build it. And I'm now coming into my fourth year, and it's enormous at this point. And it's just been a creative lifeboat at the same time. I mean, I love my job, absolutely, but this is, a way to get best of both worlds, feel like creative, but also I can do my production work and get my, get a paycheck and have my hobbies and my passions. And it's been really, really wonderful. Really great.
Do you have any
If
fun
you ever want
stories?
to
Oh,
check
go
it out,
ahead.
yeah, if you want to check it out, it's called The Haunting on Virginia Avenue. We are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the got a website. If you're on Long Island, please come check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Do you have any fun stories, like from scaring someone so hard or anything?
I Haunting has always been a part of my life. Basically, before I started my own home haunt, I worked for 13 years at Blood Manor, which is a really great haunted house in Manhattan. And it's funny because I've literally, when you work as a haunt actor, you're in a room for hours and days and years. So it's like it's so hard to pick one moment because it's such a blur after a while. But there's always like those one or two people that are super into it, hit the floor, or just are just goofy and want to dance with you and just be fun. I've met a lot of famous people from working with the haunts. And one year we worked a wedding at a mansion. Like we would get like little side gigs, like promotions and stuff, and the entire mansion was decked out like a haunted mansion, and we were the ghosts that would wander the cocktail party. And I've had so many wonderful experiences from working at the haunted house and starting my own haunt.
Yeah, I love ghosts too. That's kind of fun. And true crime and stuff, things I never really
Yeah.
talk about. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize. I mean, that makes sense that New York would have a big Halloween presence and do kind of those
Oh,
things.
major. Yeah.
So I guess we'll get to the meat of it. So what exactly do you do?
Well, I'm a production manager, and that's basically, the person who oversees everything, makes sure the wheels are the cogs are turning properly and nothing is going wrong. I deal with a lot of spreadsheets and calendars and trackers. I'm very OCD and organized, so it completely helps with production. I'm a neat freak, and it kind of plays into all aspects of my work and life. You got to be on top of everything. You kind of have to have a sixth sense in predicting what's going to happen and seeing trends. And if this is late, how late? How is it going to affect us? Is this a normal part of production? Sort of being a therapist in some way, because I have to, there's a lot of complicated things that happen in production, and on every level, from from the artist to my bosses, there's a lot of talking and, personalities and just kind of dealing with and just kind of being grounded. And I feel like I bring an evenness to the production that I think helps when everything's kind of nutty. I try to stay calm, and I think attitude and energy is a huge part of production. And I feel like I bring like a calm to the production, which can be helpful because it can get pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet. So like, what would be like a day in the life of what would be like a day in the life for you as far as like checking in with people specifically, filling out your spreadsheet? Go ahead.
Depending on the week, I'll have my, to-do list. We'll have a time card week or alternating with quality control QC weeks when we ship our episodes off. So there are certain things that happen, each week with those tasks. Normally it's just checking your calendar to make sure that I'm in all my emails all my meetings that I need to be in. We do a lot of meetings, a lot of production meetings to check in with our crew, running down the schedule and the trackers just to make sure that where we are is where we need to be. And if not, checking in on certain people. There is some, hands-offness to it. I don't like to be on top of people and bothering them. I like my crew to prove themselves and to get the work done. And if they do, then I'm not going to bother you. I really love to we have a really smooth production. And when something happens, we just kind of deal with it. There's no pointing fingers. Animation and production is all about problem solving and mistakes. So it is inevitable that it will happen, and I'll never get mad at somebody for making a mistake. But if it is a mistake that you made 6 months ago and you didn't tell me, then we have a problem. We want to fix things right away. It's not a problem until it's too late.
Yeah.
So that's definitely juggling crew, picking the right people for the right departments, making sure everybody's happy and content. We're doing a little more work in the office again, so making sure everybody's set up and has all the materials they need to be successful, and all my directors are ready to go. It's a lot of little moving pieces.
Oh yeah, I bet for sure. So how is, you mentioned directors, so how is the more directors, producers divided between episode per episode? Because is it always the same director? Is it multiple people?
So our show is, we have 25 episodes, and each episode are 10 minutes or around that time. So we have an A and a B per episode. Our storyboard artists have an A director and a B director. So we'll have different teams. The executive producers and line producers and everything, we all kind of oversee everything in general, but there are specific directors for specific episodes. And we have an art director for the design team, everybody. And then other than that, it's just kind of general. Everybody's kind of oversees everything else, just make sure everything's working. And since we are not in person, you have to communicate a lot, and definitely check in on your teams. And I try to check in on my directors as much as possible to make sure they got everything they need. And we've been fortunate enough to, this is our third project in a row with Disney Junior, and we've had multiple seasons for each project. So we have a lot of people that have been on those projects from the beginning. So it's we're really solid, and it's great.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's great.
So, what's your favorite part of the process?
I don't think I ever said it. I work on a show called Pupstruction, by the way. It's a preschool show for Disney Junior, and it's really cute. And one of my favorite things is the voice actors, getting to watch voiceover recordings and seeing who they're gonna cast, and just seeing the process. We literally start from scratch. It's really wonderful to see a project start from nothing. There's always a scratch little short done or something to show you what a proof of concept. But when we're really starting with the world building, and like, the characters and seeing the characters evolve and then get cast. It's great. It's great. And then seeing the scripts evolve over the seasons and the animation evolve. It's always a process. When you start with a new animation studio, it's never where you want them to be at first. And the hopes is to get them to a point where, they're so good that they don't need us, which is a good and bad, because it's happened where they'll be like, oh, well, now we can do everything. So, that's happened with animation studios, but they do great work. So,
So for preschool shows specifically, do you have a narrative that builds on itself, or is it kind of like, episode per episode a contained plot? And if so, like, what challenges are there? Go ahead.
Yeah. The first series I worked on with Disney was called Goldie and Bear. So it was about fairy tales. So that was kind of built in, it was Goldilocks and basically every fairy tale character. The second series was called Tots, and that was about cute baby animals and delivering, the storks delivering babies and stuff like that. And our current show is about construction, and all little kids love construction and puppies and cats. So it's just it's pretty basic ideas, but with the writers and the executive producers and the creators, we bring so much to it and create and produce something that is just really fun to watch, and I think that everybody can enjoy, and I think that's ideal. But we're fortunate that we have a really great guy we work with named Travis Braun, who is the creator of our past two shows, and he's just been wonderful to work with. And I'm very again, I can't say it enough. I have a great team. Our executive producer and all of our producers are just wonderful. All of our Disney connections and our animation studio in Italy, we just have a really great relationship. So.
I'm trying to think. So do you have a favorite episode or even moment behind the scenes for any of your series? Oh, I assume that's a yes.
I love the bad guy in this show. I'm a cat person. I love cats. I love all animals, but I'm specifically a cat person. And the cat, our main villain is a cat, voiced by Bobby Moynihan from SNL. So anytime he's on the show, he's so funny. He does like a Joe Pesci impression. He's like Joe Pesci as like Grumpy Cat, basically. was basically the early looks for it, but and it's just anytime he's involved, I love it. It's any episode with him, and we have just so great with our voice actors. We have, like, if you really dig into animation, like the voice actors working right now, we have a ton of them on our show. Eric Bauza, Kari Walgren, all these incredible people. We had Craig T. Nelson, Mr. Incredible, on our show, playing Grandpa. The lead of our show, who plays the character Finney, is I can't remember if it's Pixar or Disney Studios, but there's a film coming out about an alien abduction, and he's the voice, and he's such a pro. This kid is so great. I've watched him work, and I've met him, and he's just the nicest kid. So it's just it's such a bonus to see all that stuff, and again, to see the characters evolve and get their voices cast, and then to see them come to life, it's just great.
So yeah, since you mentioned casting, I know that's not your main department, but do you get to come in and listen to some of the voice recording sessions, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so with a show like, when you're working on like a Disney Junior show, there's a stock of voice actors that we pretty much will always use, and that's all done in LA. The casting is done by a casting person that is on our team, and every once in a while I'll cover for somebody who can't make a record. We have our production people assigned to do certain things. So if somebody can't do it, I'll sit in on a record, and it's enjoyable for me. So I enjoy covering people for records. But normally there's somebody assigned who sits in and make sure that all lines are being touched upon and everything that needs to be hit is hit. One time that was really exciting was I got to go to an in-person record with Vanessa Williams, who was working on, she was the boss on their show Tots. Mm-hmm. So we were in like a little house in a recording studio in New York, just hanging out with Vanessa Williams. She was very nice, and it was just cool. It was very cool.
That
But
sounds
it's not an everyday thing for me. But as anytime I can, I like to be in on the recording sessions.
So back to more art stuff. So what do you think are your biggest, like, do you have any artists specifically that are inspirations for you as in your work, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the stereotypical Jim Henson, Walt Disney, major influences on me. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of like, you know, those are the ones that stick out the most animation wise. You know, trying to think if there's like somebody specific that comes to mind. A lot of comedians, have really inspired me, regardless of, the field. But definitely Henson is huge. I absolutely was obsessed with Jim Henson as a kid. Still am obsessed with his work, and such a great influence. I've had some great art teachers and stuff that have been very helpful. And of course, my original animation teacher, Brian Mitchell, was super influential in helping me, actually helping me in my career. So a few of those, some great high school art teachers.
So a little bit of a fun question. Who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh man, I don't know. Oh gosh, Gonzo, Animal, probably those two, or those are top two for me.
Yeah, we just watched me and my roommate just watched the 2015 Muppet Show where Miss Piggy has a show, and it was pretty fun. So I wish it
Yeah, I
got
have.
more
I'm
seasons.
I'm afraid to watch anything recent. It's so bad. I'm just such a. I'm just like I'm just afraid. Though I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, it was fun. I'd say for the newer stuff, the Kermit sounds pretty off, and it's pretty
Can't
distracting.
stand. Can't stand his new voice. There's got to be somebody out there who can embody Jim Henson. I'm
I
sorry.
I
There's
know,
got to
like it's
be.
such a popular character. It shouldn't be this hard. And like my roommate is like, this is making an argument for AI at this point.
Yeah, I mean, though they now they do Darth Vader's voice with all old recordings of James Earl Jones, and I'm assuming AI is involved. It doesn't sound something's wrong, something's off, but it's got to be some voice actor out there that can do it. I know there is somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's grew up like me, obsessed with Kermit and the Muppets, that can do it. I don't know. There's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Like for James Earl Jones specifically, it's really noticeable when you compare like the new
Yeah.
Lion King to the old Lion King. Um,
Yeah.
he doesn't sound very interested in the new one.
No, he's old.
Yeah,
He's very old. I
yeah.
mean, there's no doubt about it. He's an old man at this point. So,
I mean,
it's time to start thinking of new ideas, and let's bring in some new voice actors and stuff.
yeah. Well, the live action Disney movies are like a hot mess, but they're interesting
Yeah.
to study for sure.
Yeah, it's funny, the whole thing of it's like, are they even live action? There's like maybe there's an actor in it, but it's like they're all in digital environments. It's such a weird gray area.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Lion King, that was, but that was
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
was
bizarre.
bad.
Terrible. Not
It,
great.
it
Not
made
great.
a lot of money though, which makes me even sadder. But
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, is that they make money.
yeah, I mean, I know that the sequel is coming out to the Lion King or the prequel or
Who
whatever.
asked for that? I mean, really, I don't know.
I mean, I always tell people like if it was a 2D Mufasa story, like I'm in there. Like that sounds like a great idea, but
Yeah,
this is like
sure.
you
And I
know,
even saw like Timon and Pumbaa are back. I'm like, so they met Mufasa now before they met? Oh, come on! Like, this is just silly. Like, come on.
the shots in the Arctic are my favorite because they're just like so juxtaposing. Like why do we need this? So
Nobody needs it. Yeah, that's the answer.
I mean, in some ways it's good because like OG Lion King has established timeline and family tree and stuff like that. So at least if they're gonna mess it up, they're gonna mess it up in the live action universe, which no one really
Yeah,
cares about.
I don't think it'll affect the animation. There's still rumors of a Lion King land coming to Animal Kingdom, so fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's based on the cartoon and not the movies.
Oh, I would hope. Oh God, I don't even know what they would do for the realistic stuff because
It would be pretty dreary.
yeah. I just think too of the product lines of the live action stuff. It's weird. I don't know. I like Simba. They messed him up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about or mention?
No, I one kind of thing that I thought about that I thought was really interesting is I was talking about voice actors before, and Eric Bauza is one of our big voice actors, and he's like Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny and everybody right now. And he was a storyboard artist first.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Just, so he was just, a lot of the times our storyboard artists have to scratch dialogue into the animatic. So if there's a line that wasn't recorded, somebody's got to record it. Mm-hmm. So they'll end up doing it. And so he was so good at it that it was like they couldn't not notice that he was a great voice actor, and that got him to be like the #1 voice actor right now. So, I always feel like, sometimes people think production is like an end or like once you're in animation, you can't do this or that. There's always a way to segue into something else, and and just getting yourself in the door is the best way, so if you're a production person for storyboards, you could become a storyboard artist. If you're a writing coordinator, you can become a writer. So I like to keep bringing up production because a lot of students don't know about production. One of my goals is to teach production, get like an outline going for a course, because there are tons of opportunities for people out there. And people who love animation, people are super organized but maybe can't draw, think that I can't be in animation. There's a million ways to get into animation, so just again, just try to just be passionate and work your butt off in something.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, I think I'm good if you're good as far as
great.
Okay, so thanks everyone for listening. We don't really do these podcasts that often, but if you care, we're at the KP Podcast on Twitter and YouTube and Spotify or whatever, or Animation Communication at all those things, but it's at the KP Podcast on Twitter. So anyway, that's what it is. But thanks, Mike, for coming by and talking about your craft.
Yeah, if anybody wants to find me on Instagram, I post a lot of animation and horror and toy stuff on there. Endless Mike 584 on Instagram. And also got my haunted house, The Haunting on Virginia Avenue, on Instagram and the website and YouTube. I'm posting a lot of stuff on YouTube, making tutorials and editing videos and doing voiceovers. It's a new thing for me, but again, it's part of staying creative. So please check it out.
Yeah, it's a nice way to stay fresh and kind of think of new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. All right, well, thanks everyone for listening. We have a ton of backlog if you're new to the podcast, but I don't know where we're going to do another one, but this is like episode 90, so have fun.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Communication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting provider. We are really hoping the show makes a difference in how people view animation, as well as media as a whole, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like and want to join the animation and media industry. If you like what you heard, please remember to show support by giving a like, a follow, rating those 5 stars, as well as subscribing to our main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube, and turn your notifications on. New episodes of Animation Communication come out every Wednesday at 6 a.m. EST on podcasting platforms and 4 p.m. EST on YouTube. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the KP Podcast for information on upcoming guest episodes and more, as well as our hosts KP and Lyle Convoy at I Love KP a Lot and at Lyle Manbad on social media. I'm Lucy, and thank you for being a part of our community. See you next time on Animation Communication.